Did you get turning it or did it?
No, but almost, I haven't had dinner.
It wasn't a poem, it was my daughter-in-law and I sat down and I take that.
Open this door.
Make sure we have a door open. We need that one doesn't have a magnet.
Is there a reserve? So you actually talk to them?
No.
You leave the garbage can? Oh, here's one. No, that's an eraser. I'm sorry, we're starting late.
There's a lot of things I will do that one on it.
You know, that probably put that right
There's conditions to it. So whenever there's a change to the baseball coach,
No, that's okay.
So I did tell her.
You told me I do that.
Supposed to be reasonable.
Hello.
Stacy, I tried to make you good record. She broke.
All set.
That's cute.
You want away? She wanted. Yeah, are you good? There you go. Ready, Jim?
All right, 6:05, we'll call the meeting to order. I apologize for being a few minutes late. We were getting some things together.
Okay. Miss Jennifer Haggerty.
Here.
Miss Stacy Over.
Here.
Mr. Marquis James, absent. Mr. Peter Benella.
Here.
Mr. James Preston.
Present.
All right.
Before we get started tonight, I just wanted to just take a moment of silence for a graduate who passed away this week, succumbed to violence, unfortunately. Claudia Hoffler, I would like his family to know that the Rensselaer community is thinking about them and they are in our thoughts and prayers. No, it's all right. I just wanted to take a few minutes for that. Thank you. Do we have any communications? Oh, my God, approval from, sorry. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting last month, January 15th. Stacy and Peter, all in favor? Aye, thank you. That threw me off a little. Any communications? Board of Education items. We don't, but I wanted to just ask Peter to remind me, I asked Peter to attend some things for me that I appreciate that, Peter, because with working, it's hard. We're invited to a lot that actually is really pertinent to school and the New York State School Board, and I can't always attend those things, so I wanted to thank Peter, but I think there's some things coming up, Peter, you're gonna go for us and then report back.
We had a lobby day today.
Today, thank you.
Yeah.
And how did
And
that go?
I appreciate the bump in pay from 0 to 0.
50%?
That's 0% increase.
Signed right off on that.
It's under the rate of inflation, I appreciate that. And I actually wrote it up so I wouldn't go too long.
Okay.
I've been accused of going too long. I did attend the lobby day today, and I was pleased. People I talked to saw Megan yesterday too. She was there for the ASBO. Met with Senator Ashby's chief of staff and Assemblyman McDonald in person. Had the opportunity to catch up personally with a bunch of legislators that I used to work with when I was younger. Just on issues, the report I'll give you is this issue of the electric buses, the deadline for 2027. I think there's some hope of that changing. The governor did an interview in Rochester the other day where somebody asked a question. She kind of opened the door, those words that governors use that sound like mushy. And she opened the door to maybe being helpful to school districts and change some of the transition. The words I got, what you heard, but a lot of the legislators are concerned about the impact of it on schools in terms of cost and their ability to use buses. So if we don't see a rescinding of that this year, I think we might see a little pushback on it or some changes on the date that's coming up in 2027. I was under strict instructions to bring up prior year adjustment. Which is, and Megan can explain it better than I, but it's money that the state owes us over a number of years. I think it was about 1.2 million, you said? And that's an account that they never seem to catch up with. I remember lobbying for schools 25 years ago, and that was an issue. It takes the state forever to do it. I did not get any hope that they were going to clean up anybody's prior year adjustment aid in this budget, but there was some talk that they might be able to get some money in, which they've done in prior years. Both Ashby's office and McDonald were very well aware that we got a fairly decent school aid runs in the governor's budget, and hopefully when they come to reconcile the budget in both houses, that number will be at least that good. They're never what you want them to be, but it's better than it was last year, so. That's about, and just if anybody cares, by mid-March, they'll do their individual, the process has them do, each house passes their own budget, and then they sit together and reconcile the differences, so that hopefully by April 1, we have our budget put out. So, that's all I got. It was fun to be back in the building.
Thank you, Peter, I appreciate that. Consideration of additional items for the agenda or assignments of action items. Okay, so we'll go on to a more report. So Megan, you are first, and I know you left us something here, right?
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm gonna apologize. Let me go back, I'm very off today. I'm gonna, if it's okay, let Dom and Bob go because they want to get to the game, the senior game. So I'm so sorry. Go right ahead.
You don't want to hear about the tax cap again this year?
Sorry.
I'll briefly speak about 5 retirees that I'm very jealous about. So we've got 5 of our workers going to be retiring, probably put in their stuff probably over the past 3 months, so I figured I'd wait and kind of address them all at once here. So first one is Anne-Marie Columby, my secretary. So she runs the whole office for us, keeps me organized, keeps me on task, and you know, really going to miss her. Wish her the best in retirement, and hope that she enjoys herself, and you know, and does some fun stuff. Next one we have is Lynn Carlson. She's actually not with us this year. She's down in the elementary school at the desk, and I think actually she's done now, right? So she's officially out here. But Lynn worked in the high school kind of doing everything. She was in the nurse's office for a while. There was a while where she would, you know, when she came in, we would put her wherever we needed, like somebody. So like she was always in the nurse's office, and then if somebody was missing at the front desk, she went there. If someone was missing in the hallway, she went there. If someone was missing in the classroom, she was there. So just a great lady, great person, big heart, and willing to do anything to kind of help out. So Lynn Carlson, definitely going to miss her. Next one is Evelyn Perrone, Miss Perrone. So she's been in the second floor hallway.
She had done her time. She's done her time.
So she does a great job in that second floor hallway. She rules the roost up there and handles everything. So Mr. Higgs especially is going to miss her. His room is directly outside her door there. Miss Perrone is leaving, and then we have 2 teachers retiring this year. So first one is Miss Fountain, Christina Fountain, longtime elementary teacher for us, but has been with us for the last couple of years in 6th grade in the junior senior high school. Does a great job teaching science. She's always got a ton of the Lego robotics stuff in the back of the class that the kids love. She runs an after-school STEM program 2 or 3 days a week. So wish her the best in retirement. I know she's got a camp she always talks about, so I hope she enjoys herself and gets up to that camp for a good amount of time. And then the last one is kind of been a staple in our community for, I don't know, 30 years, or you know, probably longer than that. So Miss Galar. So Miss Galar, who's taught high school Spanish for 27 years, I think she said. I think she's adopted like 172 kids from Rensselaer. So she just has the biggest heart and is willing to do anything for the kids. You know, people who would miss a test for her, you know, someone who was out 3 or 4 days, Deb would be going to their house, visiting them and administering the test to them at the house. So the type of person that you can't really replace, you know what I mean? But we appreciate that she was here with us for this time, and we wish her the best in retirement. So those five people moving on, and we wish them the best.
Okay, discipline report. I apologize first, I'm fighting a cold. Don promised me if my voice starts breaking up, he's gonna pick up some slack.
I gotta go.
And I do it, I keep it right. Infractions, overall infractions are still steadily up. You know, I love data. For my years as a PPS director, I find numbers a little bit soothing, so I like to do this, you know, take a look at the numbers and ask myself why. And I dug a little deeper this time and hopefully have some answers. So we see our detentions most definitely skyrocketed up, our sent homes up, but our ISSs are down. I mean, so that's a, I guess, a positive. We now put in place what we call the alt ed stay put. So our alt ed wing, if you will, it really wasn't working in in-school suspension for them. I mean, past practice was, which we constantly talk about, if you mess up an ISS, you go home. Well, that wasn't happening for alt ed kids. So working with the alt ed staff, with PPS, with Dom, his mastery of the schedule, really the teachers picking up a period, not an extra period, but a period during the day to supervise. Academics continue, therapeutic helps down the hall from PPS, and we always had Project Aware just a few steps away. It's been working out, I think, nicely. It has to be fine-tuned with some students. So naturally, we didn't have any last year, but we're 14, I ran this before on January 20th, we're way past that, we're 14 now. Our OSSs are up, and our superintendent's hearings, which really is a time-consuming process, is up from 5 to 17. Interesting enough, and I can't see it, but I'll read it off my sheet, 27 students have 10 or more referrals, which contribute to almost 500 of those referrals.
Yeah, so it's core.
So we're really focusing on behavior interventions for them, therapeutic needs, counseling needs. It's all hands on deck with, I would say, a good amount of those students. And naturally, because of confidentiality, I can't say the student's name, but we are having a lot of success stories within those 27 students. I think there's about 5 kids that really haven't received a referral since December, which that's that focus with that PPS and Project Aware that we're starting to see come into play. 7 students have 20 or more, which contribute to 175 of the referrals. So if you're looking at infractions or referrals, it's 465. That's about a third of the overall 1,200-ish that we have had since the beginning of the school year.
And thank you for that, that's important to understand.
Yeah. And it's, you know, I know the kids, Pitt knows the kids, and we just rattle it off, but looking at the data, like I said, to me, I'm a strange dude. It's soothing when I start digging into it and take a look at the numbers. Who's that, Patrick?
Yeah, balance check.
Click over to the other one, the comparison. Really wanted to take a look at comparison from last year to this year. And the strong points are in green. We made progress in those points, and the, I guess you would call it purple. Purple would be stuff we need to work on. Pete and I are always saying positive referrals. Let's support the positive. If we have random acts of kindness, if the kid's doing well in your class, we want to see it. And you see that really, you know, took off, and the teachers are really taking notice to that. Fighting is slightly down. That's line 9. But if you pop all the way down to physical contact in 20, it's up. So why is that? Because we really took the initiative that when the kids start doing a little pushy shovey, it stops right there. It does not get into, you know, that all-out brawl, which we don't want happening. And we don't want kids coming into each other's classrooms and pushing each other, because that starts a situation we really don't wish to have. If you could screen up a little bit, Patrick, I want to show them I don't know, something I'm a little bit proud about is failure to report to detention. Where is that? There it is, line 12. This year, it really bugged me a little bit, the kids were blown off our detentions. So last year we had it happen 36 times up to this point. It only happened 2 times. Now why is that? A commitment by our school aides. Our school aides gather the kids up and really are committed to making sure those kids attend. That's Tammy Hillstrow and Jackie Leonard. They do a great job getting those kids to detention and holding them and making sure they fulfill their responsibility. Because what happens if you don't go to detention? It turns into an in-school suspension, and then it cycles, and it just keeps going. So we had to cut it off as soon as possible. So I'm somewhat pleased with that.
And Bob, I have to say, it goes back to relationship too. I don't know if anybody sees Jackie with them. You know what I mean? They respect her when she approaches them.
Absolutely.
You know, and she treats them with respect and, you know, comes back, and then I think it works.
And line 10, left class without permission, we took a big decline in that. So, and Pitt is constantly saying, don't let kids out 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after, make sure you hold them accountable in class, and then they're just not busting out. And it also has to do with e-hall pass technology.
Oh.
It really holds us to, you know, making sure we know where kids are at all times. Absolutely, the cell phone, you're gonna see a 25% increase because of our new cell phone policy. And that is also connected to our out-of-school suspensions early on. I don't think we had an out-of-school suspension for several weeks, if not months, regarding the cell phone, not that I can recall. If the kids are caught with it now the first time, we hold it to the end of the day. Afterwards, it's in the safe till a parent picks up. So we kind of gave that commitment to our expectation, and the students have slowly met it. They've come up to that. Taking a look at lines 17, 18, and 19, and for the sake of this little presentation, let's piece them together. So in last year, we had 19 of drug or vaping or use of drugs, and this year, quick math, 31. That's the vape census. And checking, I think our vape census went off first time today in 4 weeks in the middle school. So that is a success story. I do see that's going to start leveling out and going down. And the rest of them, 21 through the end, you know, you can read at your own leisure, downtime, I guess, and see it really not a massive change. They really didn't put it up to a green or a purple. Any questions?
Thank you for breaking up the multi-infraction
Yeah.
students. That makes it a lot more
I'm gonna go
understandable.
a little deeper during vacation, and I want to see if it's connected to attendance. I want to see where they are in that.
Great idea.
What Jim said, plus the explanation of what you're doing, how you're trying to change things behavioral, so it fills in. I've raised this a couple of times, it's good to hear that.
And I want to
That
make sure
information is very useful to us.
it takes a team. I mean, the teachers, the aides, Pitt, everyone is committed to it. And, you know, we can't do it alone, and having the staff that really commit to it and stay on top of it, and our school aides are so vital in that also. They really do that grunt work that, you know, from getting the kids in the building with the yonder pouches to unlocking the yonder pouches at the end of the day, all that good stuff.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Enjoy the activities.
Thank you, guys.
Can you text us the score update?
What's that now?
What's the score?
What's the update on the score?
I'll
Yeah,
come in and give this.
just, you're only down by a few.
Stacy, do you mind giving your?
We need to, yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, now, it's on a second.
All right, going back to Meg. Okay. Sure.
My turn?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So by way of update for grants, we finally, as of the last week in January, first week in February, received our final approval on a grant. Believe it or not, a grant that starts July 1st, we didn't receive approval until about February 3rd. So we are more than halfway through the year, and now we have to plan how we're going to ensure that we spend 100% of the grant from now until June 30th, which of course is going to require an amendment at this point because we are more than halfway through the year and things change. And the amendment itself is probably going to take a couple months to get approval and go through the 4 groups that have to review it before it gets approved. So, with that said, next month you will see a lot of those negatives that you see in the general fund budget that I didn't have anybody bring it up, it's just not worth it. But the negatives that you see in some of those salary lines, those will be gone in February because the funds are available now in the special aid fund with the grants existing, so now I can recode those salaries where they belong. So that'll be a much cleaner version of the budget status report.
I need to be dumb, not play dumb. What grant we talking about?
Extended School Day is the
Oh,
grant that was
okay.
just approved.
Yeah.
So that's for after-school activities in summer school, and we fund a lot of Boys and Girls Club activities with that grant funding.
Thank you.
And it makes Hank smile too. He's over here like.
Yeah. Yes, it does. A lot of good things have come out of that,
Good
so
program.
fortunate, yes.
We
Absolutely.
also like Hig's smile.
Andrew also knows who to ask. He comes right to the source. Comes right to the source, he knows. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the annual tax cap calculation and projection, followed by the long-range financial plan and projection. Board members and Joe, you have an updated version of the tax cap calculation. Everybody in the audience, you're seeing information that is now dated at this point. So board members, you have the most updated, so since the time of this, that this was created, there has been updates, so I'm gonna walk through it. The explanation will remain pretty much the same, but the bottom line is a little bit different. So, tax cap calculation, I'm gonna start with the fact that it's a misnomer. Most people say it's 2%, it's a 2% tax cap calculation. I wish it were 2%. All of these numbers have about 15 to 50 numbers behind each one of them. So then I have to put them into this calculation in order to generate what the actual levy is and the actual increase. It is almost never 2%, it certainly is not exactly 2%. Unfortunately, we are the only taxing municipality that is subject to a tax cap calculation. We're also the only municipality that requires the public to vote. So it's, we get double whammy as a school district. So with that being said, I'm going to walk you through descriptions with some numbers for 25-26, since that's the most prevalent year that we're speaking of. I apologize to you guys in the audience, some of these numbers are not the same as what I'm going to be reading off, but the explanation is the same. The tax levy for the prior year in 25-26, of course, is our 24-25 tax levy. That's $9.4 million. The tax-based growth factor is 1.0029. This is actually set by Tax and Finance, so this number is generated just as it says based on our tax base. Pilots receivable are from prior year. Pilots are payments in lieu of taxes, so those are entities that have pilot agreements with either Rensselaer County or the city of Rensselaer, and they make payments to the school district in lieu of taxes, just as it says. Number 7, capital tax levy for prior year. This is one of those numbers that has about 50 lines behind it. It includes our debt service payments, aid on our debt service, building aid it's called, capital outlay for any projects that we plan for just the fiscal year, building lease for our garage, our bus garage, bus purchases, and then all of that is offset by the aid that we receive on those expenses, so building aid and transportation aid. Moving on, the allowable levy growth factor, the 1.02, that little number is what is referenced, the 2% tax cap. That's the number. It is a max of 2%. So it is the lesser of inflation, or 2%. So in a year like 2020 and 2021, where we had 1.8 and 1.2% inflation factors going on, we were limited to 1.8 and 1.2. In years like 22 and 23, where we had almost 5% and 8% inflation, we are limited to 2%. So it's generally in the state's benefit on this calculation. But that's the only piece that references that 2%. The next line, number 9, is the pilots that we will be receiving in the current year. We do have a little bit of a bump up this year. There's one pilot that's coming on that's already a negotiated contract, so that's a slight increase from the current year. And then if you continue that down, that gives us the total levy limit before the exclusions. That's the $6.5 million. The capital tax levy for the current year, so again, this is that exclusion. It's called the capital tax levy. These are the exclusions. So it's all the expenses for debt and buses and leases, and then offset by any aid that we receive. That's the $2.9 million in 25-26. So that gives us a total tax levy limit of $9,519,256, which represent a 1% tax levy. So there's a very small tax increase. As we've been talking about over the years, we had a couple of bumpy years with a significant tax increase so that we could level the playing field, because we really had a revenue problem. And that is evened out, and now we're at a point where our tax levies are also leveled out. So we are in the range of 0, 1, 2. Jim?
Oh, I just wanted to ask, because last year was similar too, right? Where we had a very
It was
low-
3% last year.
And my mortgage actually went down. I know.
It also depends on the value of your house, property values, assessments, things like that matter. The tax did not go down, also depends on what the county and the city are
Maybe it was
taxing.
them, because I know nothing changed with my assessment.
County went down, I think.
County? Okay. Thank you.
I mean, Rensselaer County has done a very good job of maintaining taxes,
Yeah.
very little, 0% increases.
Yeah.
So, and then your share can also go down too, depending on the tax base.
Gotcha.
Um,
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Off
No, it's a
topic.
viable question. And so this is a projection, so we take the levy for 25-26 and we do the same calculation over for 26-27 and going forward. I have to make assumptions because I don't know what the allowable levy is gonna be. I don't know what the tax-based growth factor is gonna be, so I have to make assumptions in my calculations. And as you go further out, those assumptions get less reliable because we don't know exactly what is going to be happening. The one thing I can say is that last year when I presented this, 26-27 had a very significant decline. And the reason that you're not seeing that significant negative in 26-27 is because of the capital project that was approved in December. So just as was intended, we want zero impact to the taxpayer on that capital project. Well, this is how we do it because we have debt falling off in 26-27. We're assuming more debt in 26-27. We will have the building aid to offset. But even with that, it's still estimated at a 1.0% tax levy. So the timing is everything. And then if you continue forward, we have a small decline in 27-28, which really would end up being a 0% in 27-28 as the way that it calculates. And it's a result of new debt, that's coming on, and then the aid that's being offset. It's really a result of the 50-line calculation that goes behind those capital levy exclusions. And then the next of note is 20-30-31. You see that there's that big upswing. It's for you guys, it's that 5.9% number, but for the updated version the board members are looking at, that's 7.2%. And that's directly related to a pilot that's falling off. Our cogeneration pilot is intended to fall off that year, and that's almost $500,000 every year. So that's a significant dollar amount. I suspect it will be renegotiated and it will come back on there, but again, this projection is so far out that we don't know.
It's important to understand too, when a property that large falls off of a pilot, it also then becomes part of the taxable base. So although our levy will go up, it also will be spread across a new base, which means that the individual's rate doesn't go up that high. We levy this much, but it's spread across more taxable. In other words, they pick up a good portion of that as the property comes onto the taxable base. If they don't
Very
renegotiate
large
it, which they likely will, right?
Yeah.
Side note, here in 2030, just gave me palpitations.
Oh, I know.
I was like, 2030,
The thought of
that
being
can't be
that,
right.
yeah.
I was like, oh my God, it really
So
is.
close to that, you know. Jen, did you have a question?
It's just craziness in my head. The marijuana dispensary on Broadway, they pay state taxes that go out to schools as the state chooses. Do they
Same with the lottery.
do they pay school taxes? They pay taxes to state. That's supposed to go to 40%, that's supposed to go to education. I don't know what the state does with it. But do they pay school taxes?
I'd have to look at the property
just
roll to
curious.
see if that property is on there.
I should know this actually, it's
But
pretty sad. Like
they
the-
have to pay, the funny thing about that is.
Owner of the building.
They have to pay for aid that comes back to the districts.
Yes.
But it's reduced from our lottery.
So it's like the lottery
Yes,
situation.
I know.
All
So
of
I
it.
was
So it just
thinking-
reduces our
right.
lottery aid, it's not
I
more.
know.
Right, it's just the same numbers.
It's a shell
where
game.
it's coming from.
So it's probably
Right.
just tax, whatever the owner of the building pays school taxes.
So we get a.
But not the
I'm
business
sure the,
is
on
I'm sure the property is on the tax roll.
Right, right.
But the business has to
Pick your
pay.
advice.
I don't know, it's just in my head. I
Yeah,
don't know why I was thinking it.
but then any of that cannabis aid
Oh, I
is just
know.
reduced, it just
That's
reduces our lottery aid.
Okay.
It's, yeah.
Did you like that answer?
The cars
We can go
went by
to,
that place
taxpayer.
constantly. I was on the Eagles watching it one night, and I was like, oh my gosh.
All right, if you bear with me, I can take you through the long-range financial plan.
Yeah.
Both of these documents are required by school districts, so they will be on our website. They'll be on the budget development webpage. These are required by OSC.
And I asked you at the table before, what do they do with these? We just have to report it in and then,
Yeah, they're checking a box. So like when OSC came to do an audit last year, he's just checking a box to make sure that I'm doing it and that it's on the website.
okay,
It doesn't go any further than that.
that's, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes,
Thank
it's
you for
just,
checking the
it's
box.
just an
Busy work.
exercise, exactly. So, just, the one thing I will say, and I'm going to reiterate what Peter said, we are looking very good under the governor's executive budget for foundation aid to the tune of 11% compared to 24-25. While I would love for that to go through, I suspect things will change as they always do before the budgets are finalized and approved. But for the purposes of the long-range financial plan, the state aid as it stands under the executive budget, because that's the information I have right now, is in this long-range financial plan. So all the way to the left is our 24-25 existing budget, and this is very high level. So local revenue is our tax revenue and any miscellaneous revenue, which is the pilots that I just mentioned, Rensselaer Academy lease, any admissions to the basketball games, utility credits that we get. That's all of the miscellaneous that's built into the local. The state is state aid. Federal is revenue that we receive back for Medicaid reimbursements. And then transfers are just transfers between funds. And the reason that number is so high, that $3.4 million, is that we are transferring the principal amount of our debt service from the debt service fund to the general fund as much as we can every year. And if you notice, that number is decreasing every year because right now we have $4.8 million in there, and of course that's going to be on a declining balance. Expenditures are salary and benefit costs. They make up 75% of our expenses, and that's based on contractual obligations for all of our unions. And benefits, we're looking at health insurance, currently estimated 12% increase. I'm going to give final numbers through the Health Insurance Trust in March. I'll get final numbers for that. Our ERS rate is at 15.3. The TRS actually went down since last time I reported in January from 10 to 9.59. So that's what we're looking at for salary and benefits. And then the other is a very small description for a lot of stuff. So that's equipment, including buses. That's contracts with a 2 to 3% increase, and supplies, materials, textbooks, and our debt service. So as you can see, we are breaking even. We're a school district, we're not in the business of making money, so that's the goal. We're gonna break even. The debt, we will be utilizing debt service reserves to the tune of $3.7 million this year. Our beginning balance of unassigned fund balance is $962,000 for a projected year-end balance of $4.7 million. And then as it moves forward, for 25-26, you can see in the delta column in the change, our local revenue is expected to go up minimally, less than 1% when you consider the miscellaneous in there. And then there's that beautiful 11.75% for foundation aid. Let's hope it stays that way. Medicaid is generally estimated at $200,000 annually. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. The transfers will go down, as I mentioned, as we deplete that reserve fund. And then salary and benefits, again, based on my assumptions, based on the economic environment, health insurance rates are going through the roof, no matter what. And then the contractual obligations for salary. And then with the other debt service, I know, I have a debt schedule. Everything else is basically an estimate of 2 to 3% increase annually. So we are left with a little bit of a deficit, which I'm reflecting a deficit, but our fund balance will cover that. Excuse me. And then we will have $876,000 left in our debt service reserve. With that beginning fund balance, we'll have $5.5 million. And I'm not going to go through every single year, but you kind of get the idea of estimating aid. This is based on the tax cap projection that I just showed you, so that's reflected in there. And then my assumptions for expenditures, aside from those that I know are set in stone. So year after year, you see similar graphs where the gap starts to increase of revenues compared to expenditures the further out we go. It just gets harder to estimate and predict, but I can say that year after year, as I present this, it does get better. So, you know, the same thing with the right side, with the green bar chart there, it's, the projections aren't so rosy the further you go out because our expenditures are rising faster than our revenue is rising. And the validity gets a little bit skewed as you go further out because there's so many variables and so many things to estimate and predict. But it's worthy of it for at least 2 or 3 years.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
My name's Brian. Just curious, I'm noticing, we talked earlier, Peter was talking about the electric school buses. I imagine that's in front of everybody's mind as to the future. And I noticed a 17% increase in the other expenditures. Is that in anticipation of the cost for those electric buses?
Absolutely not. I do not have electric buses in here right now. We are pushing, so as Peter mentioned, he went to lobby day today, I went to lobby day yesterday. The buses are $450,000 for one electric bus. That's 3 times what we pay for one standard 66 passenger, 72 passenger bus. It's astronomical. And even with the aid that we get on it, it still just doesn't make any sense. And then there's so much that has to go into the infrastructure and transmissions and being able to sustain it. So while we are very much thinking about it, and it's something that's at the forefront of our minds, and we're discussing it, and it's a constant topic of conversation, it's not something that's built into this budget quite yet. Because frankly, I believe that can is gonna kick down the road a couple of years.
I know that there's,
You
I
just
don't
can't
know,
sustain it.
I was hoping, it's an incredible burden for any school district to.
Well, and thank you for acknowledging that, because the burden is all on the school districts. Because, we don't have folks that are at the table helping us from, electric companies and people that really understand the infrastructure and all of that. It's left up to us. And then they throw these grants at us, but then we have to put a hole in one of our buses in order to actually get a bus that's electric to substantiate the grant. Like, none of it makes real sense. So we're kind of on hold with that right now.
I thought I heard that there was other state, throughout the state, there were other boards and such that were coming together to have a united front on that. So I don't know if that.
Absolutely.
Same thing with the trucks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And the other thing is 75% of propositions that were put out last year for electric buses were turned down by the voters. People don't want them. They don't want the electric buses. And then you see Bethlehem's electric bus is, broken down on the side of the road and it's flushed over the front of the Times Union.
And I'd imagine that all
And
these
a brand
buses.
new bus.
It's okay, they're Bethlehem, they can buy another one.
Just reaching out.
So, and they all park, they're parked obviously very close to one another, so if there's a short circuit or a problem in one, it could, create a fire hazard.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And you can't put the flares on.
Yeah.
Does anyone else see a problem with putting kids on buses that were not supposed to park near each other?
Yeah.
Just asking out of common sense. You
And
can't
batteries that
park them
we
near each other or
Yeah.
charge them in a garage, but let's put kids on them.
And oh, by the way, they still have diesel because they have to heat the bus. So it's,
And the batteries can't be disposed of anywhere?
No.
No landfill will take the liquid?
no. So the 17% you see is probably additional debt that we're taking on for the capital project. That's probably the increase that you see there.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for the questions. I appreciate it.
Meg. You always do a good job dumbing this down for me, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, it's a lot of numbers, and I'm not trying to bore anybody
No,
too
it's
much
good.
anyway.
This is super hard to understand, but if you want just a picture of how the picture has changed, I would encourage you to go on our budget website and just compare this picture over the past 5 years, how this graph has changed from draconian to balanced over the last 5 years as we estimate out. Because without knowing any other numbers, you can read that and go like, this looks good, I kind of like how that changed.
The first year I was here, we were talking about what we have to dissolve
Yeah.
and know what we're gonna do, where was the school gonna be?
And that was when the state was holding all our aid because of COVID. Yep, that was very scary.
Kids gonna go to Columbia?
Yeah, my pleasure, Jen. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Andrew, I think it is your turn now. Yes, RTA, please.
Okay. Let's see, I'm gonna go through some of these fast because quite a few of them are pretty long-winded. The first one, a general announcement, is with great pleasure that we share some good news and recognize one of our teachers, Miss Jackie Schatt, was awarded SUNY Oneonta's Alumni Association Outstanding Educator Award. This award recognizes a graduate of SUNY Oneonta who is a K-12 educator and has shown dedication to the service and development of students in their field, as well as a commitment to innovative classroom practices, programming, extracurricular activities, and or community work. Congratulations to Jackie, that's well deserved.
Very nice.
Just having me sing here was perfect. Our second one from Ms. Aponte is that chorus on Saturday, February 1st. Students from RCSD music programs attended the Rensselaer All-County Music Festival at Lancaster High School. These students worked diligently with Mr. Halsey, Mr. McGill, and Ms. Aponte after school for several weeks learning their music. They all represented Rensselaer City School District maturity and excellent musicianship, and they should be recognized for their talents and efforts. So there's a very long list of students up there, and I am going to mispronounce their names, so I'm going to skip to the bottom. But they all did a fantastic job at All County this time around. Also, the junior high choruses are in the process of preparing for a big concert at the end of the year. One of the songs that they're learning is a medley of Bob Marley songs in honor of Bob Marley's 80th birthday. The organization that puts on this big concert is having a worldwide event, and they are invited to participate as members of the American Young Voices Choir. This event will take place at 10 a.m. on Thursday, February 6th. I know the kids are very excited to attend that. Our next one is Pam Goodwin. A huge thank you to the Rensselaer Alumni Association for again supporting the Science Olympiad team with our team shirts for the competition at Gulf Middle School on Saturday, February 8th. Patty Bailey, Coach Sousa and I will be doing our Jump Rope Ninja unit for February, being Healthy Heart Month. This year we'll be adding a live jump rope event on Thursday, February 13th in the South Gym from 5:30 to 8. Suggested donations will be $5 and half of the proceeds will go to the GoFundMe for the family of Dave Trahan.
Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they do that last night?
It got moved to Tuesday.
Yeah.
When he wrote it, it was still.
50 families show up and they raise $400.
Nice.
It's fantastic. Christina Lane, there's A, B, C, and D. Mrs. Lane's kindergarten students celebrated the 100th day with hugs and kisses with Mr. Palmer. Students presented and counted Hershey's Kisses to 100 with Mr. Palmer. The students also made a collage about what they liked about Mr. Palmer.
Love that.
I made a video of how much he blushed.
More than Higgs.
Some of these are great. Mrs. Lane's kindergarten hosted parents at Holiday Center helpers for the Valentine's Day holiday. The kids enjoyed seeing their families in school with them during center time. Mrs. Lane's kindergarten helped spread Valentine's Day cheer to Mr. Palmer's office, where the students brought Mr. Palmer a Valentine pink tree, and they had a tree lighting to start Valentine's Week.
They did this to torture him.
His office is decked out from that class.
That's fantastic.
Better than flamingoing.
Tara Kyer and Christina Lane are having the Lucky You raffle for VR staff members. Members will be able to earn prizes all throughout March. The festivities begin during February, where we spread the word about the Lucky You raffle, and staff members have a great time with the fun each day. Josie Ketty, my Project Lead the Way class has been working on marble mazes to kick off the semester. Students cut and paste together the components to create a track for their marbles. The activity requires students to work collaboratively as a group on this engineering project. Students will show off their completed mazes to the rest of the class when they are completed. That's fun. Ashley Zimbel, yeah, they looked fancy, right? Ashley Zimbel collaborated with English literacy coach Jennifer Leonard to have her Spanish 8 students create their own children's books by choosing a simple theme and creating a picture book with basic Spanish vocabulary and English translations. Each student came up with their own theme, vocabulary, and illustrations. Their books were laminated and bound together. We then visited classrooms with some of the Van Rensselaer's kindergarten, first and second grade students, where the 8th graders were able to read their books to our elementary friends. It was a magical experience for all.
That's cute.
That's awesome. There's a bunch of pictures up there. Nice. And then, of course, the last is the flyer from the jump around evening, which was highly successful. So,
Jump around.
And that is all I have.
I am just going to add a couple of things. The RTA executive team met the other day, so we had some last minute additions, and so I just came along to add those on. First, just in light of recent events and policies going on with the federal government, the Rensselaer Teachers Association wanted to reaffirm our commitment to educating all of the children in our care, regardless of race, ethnicity, native language, immigration status, gender identity, socioeconomic status, religion, sexual orientation, or disability status. We continue to welcome all students of the city of Rensselaer into our classrooms and are fortunate to have such a diverse student population to work with each and every day. The RTA will continue to focus on our goal of providing all students with a free and appropriate public education while fostering a welcoming community within the building. There's no place in our classrooms for making students feel unwelcome. And we want the children of RCSD to know that we value them as members of our school community. And then the last one, the executive team worked with the team leaders at the elementary and junior senior high school to kind of get a feel for the school culture and morale in the building, and we are looking forward to
meeting with the administrators in each building after the break to kind of move those discussions forward.
Great, thank you. Thank you. That's nice, thank you.
So I want to introduce
I was gonna
Brad.
say, were you gonna, thank you.
Brad, say your last name so I don't butcher it.
Shimoleski.
Yeah, I would have butchered it.
Brad's is good.
So, listen, Brad's on speed dial. I talk to Brad every day. If not on the radio, on the phone. Brad is our transportation supervisor. He has stepped in and been phenomenal, present, responsive, in the face of being a handful of drivers short. Brad's working double time here. He's the first guy there and the last guy to leave. He's doing all kinds of routes. We need to get him off the bus so he can sit at the desk and do the rest of the job. But in the meantime, he and his team are doing what it takes. And it's been kind of impressive to see how much they can do with how little. Hopefully, we have a bus driver coming on next week, or the weekend, no, next week. And we have 2 more interviews tomorrow with our fingers crossed.
And another third one coming shortly, hopefully.
With our fingers crossed. We need to bring on some more drivers. Everyone has been flexible. We have kids that are leaving early from the high school, which is unfortunate at times, but we don't have a lot of choice. We have kids that are staying here as late as 4 p.m. from the elementary school, waiting for a bus to come back and get them, because we've been shorthanded. And meanwhile, they're all picking it up and making it work. So kudos to Brad and his team.
Well, welcome to the Ram family, and hopefully you'll be here for a while, so thank you. I'm glad to have you.
Almost a month.
Well, that's good.
I think I'm longer. It's challenging, but we have some promising interviews tomorrow, a new person starting, and we need to get some more aides. If you know anybody that wants to ride the bus, loves children, help take care of them, we need them as well.
Yes, we're crying out for that, please, bus drivers and aides. Thank you. All right, so next on the agenda is invitations to visitors to address the Board of Education's on topics discussed above or anything else. Bob, where?
So I'm Bob Walton from the Rensselaer Environmental Coalition. These are some members of our steering committee. We're -2, but we've got 3 Rensselaer City residents, an East Greenbush resident, an East Greenbush resident, another Rensselaer resident who's not here tonight, and somebody from Gilderman. So we're on the sort of our steering committee, our core group. And so I just, they just came here to kind of basically shore me up, I guess.
Moral support, right?
I'm not a great extemporaneous speaker, so I wrote this out, so bear with me. So last night, as you may have seen in the news, the Rensselaer County Legislature passed a resolution asking the governor to reverse the decision on the permit for the landfill. We are here tonight to ask you to consider being part of what is called an Article 78 procedure, which is essentially a lawsuit to undo the decision of the landfill because it was arbitrary and capricious. Essentially, it is finding that mistakes were made and DEC did not follow their own rules and regulations in arriving at the decision. Before I get to that, however, I wanted to share with you something that I presented to the legislature last night because it can have direct implications for the school community. So the landfill's odor control system burns methane, and it exhausts it to what is called a flare. Recent research at landfills has proven that PFAS chemicals are going into the air through this process.
All right.
And they are stronger than what is found in the testing for PFAS in the leachate. We know the leachate from the dung has unacceptable levels of PFAS because we have the test results. So this means that PFAS is likely in the air from the landfill, but like everything else, tests must be done. DEC has maintained that the landfill is not a source of PFAS, but avoids mentioning the levels in the leachate. As you probably know, Assemblyman McDonald and Senator Ashby on September 27th requested specific testing and evaluations to get to the heart of the threat to the school and the nearby community, but that request was ignored in the recent decision. Part of that request was to test for PFAS going into the air. DEC and DOH had the research in mid-August. This issue and all the other steps they requested will likely be part of this Article 78, although I'm not certain what the final document will include. We have 4 months to file from the December 23rd decision. What I told the legislature is that if tests at the landfill show PFAS is going into the air, then burning of gas will have to stop and the entire odor control system will have to be revised, which could mean the end of the landfill because the other options are very expensive. So, you know, it might be an opening, I don't know, but it's something we found that they knew about and they didn't deal with it. As far as we know. I mean, they may have dealt with it, but we don't know it. So our legal representatives are at Pace University Environmental Litigation Clinic. They are pro bono. In discussions so far with the city and the local Sierra Club and others have determined that Pace will take the lead and others will join at various levels. The process is normally very expensive, but in this case, we, REC, will pay expenses, which will be filing fees and paper and mailing costs. The school has options and various levels of participation, which I shared in an email and asked Joe to share with you in advance of tonight's meeting. Basically, we are asking you to consult with PACE to determine what level you're willing to join in this action. We believe you have already taken a position on the landfill during the input process, and your participation in Article 778 will be consistent with the position you already have established and will be so important and critical to this effort. To not have the school represented at some level in this effort would not present a very good impression for the case or to the public. I can try and answer any questions, but of course I'm not a lawyer. I have copies of presentations. I've got the copy of the research report. I've got the senator and the assembly's letter. If anybody wants those, you probably have seen some of that stuff already. But I can't tell you any more because I don't know. But what I would suggest is that some of you at least talk to PACE, hear them out. They're not going to try and put an arm on you to pressure you to do anything. They're really just to inform you so you can make your own decision. So that's it for me. So if you have any questions, I can write them down and I can ask them.
So,
Thank you.
if you don't mind.
Yeah.
okay? First, thank you for all your efforts.
Yes.
We are all of the same mindset of a desired outcome here. How we get there and what our roles are different, and I've had several conversations about, you see our presentations and where our focus needs to be, but that doesn't mean that we're oppositional to anything you're doing. We thank you not only for all of your efforts, but also for the approach of looking at us as a teammate rather than the adversarial position that was taken against the school back in 2019 that made no sense to us at all. So we thank you for both of those things. What I'll say is, if you can give us that information, what we'd like to do is have our attorney review it and maybe have our attorney speak with that attorney and kind of advise us accordingly with that, because like you said, you're not a lawyer.
Yeah.
Neither are we. So we want to put the experts and let them talk to each
I agree
other
with that. So,
and give us good advice.
Maybe give me the number, I can send an email to you and to them, and then, give me a lawyer's email and they can figure it out. I mean, I'm not gonna be there in the discussion.
They're gonna need to talk to each other.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, Joe shared everything with us, and we had an email going back and forth, and we read what Joe had shared with us, and we had said, we'll pull in our own lawyer. Obviously, we can take a look at things, and then we can pull in our own to have some discussions.
Yeah, so what I found out is, an Article 78 can drag on for a long time. And if you have to pay a lawyer, it's exceptionally expensive. So, but with PACE, so we have to pay reimburse them for filing fees, and if they have to submit a lot of paper, then we reimburse them for the paper, and if we start to run out of money, we ask for donations, and that's the way we work.
Right.
So,
Right.
But it wouldn't cost you anything, basically.
But along your sentiment, you're not a lawyer, neither are we. We should let them talk to each other and give us good advice.
100%, that's fantastic, thank you.
And I want to thank you, I think we all want to thank you for your support and looking into things and previous support that you've done. Knowing that Waste Connections contributes to your budget at some level, asking them to close would be a possible hit on the budget at some level. And with that said, I'm just curious, do we have an understanding of what kind of contributions that Waste Connections
They do
provide?
donate $15,000 annually to our students. I will say that. There's $15,000 that go to scholarships directly to students. And the difference is about $100,000 that goes to our general fund.
Thank you. It's good to keep in mind that it's $100,000 on $30+ million worth of
Sure,
spending.
sure, thank you for.
You didn't have it before the.
It doesn't, right,
You know.
it's not, it doesn't
Not gonna
cut
make or break us.
our, yeah, it doesn't make or break the entirety of the budget. So that's not a decision-making factor. However, we do believe that if we're going to have them as a neighbor, we should take every benefit we can for our students and taxpayers.
Well, and not for nothing, but it plugs up our filters, so there is a cost to having them as a neighbor, because we have to replace our filters that more often.
Is that right? You've noticed that? That's interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that one before.
Thanks for your continued support.
And we've been trying to work with the Sierra Club on that.
Yeah. I understand that they're helping you out with something?
Well, we're having discussions. We're having discussions. The managing to get across the finish line seems to be a challenge, but.
By the way, just wanted to mention this, so I've had a few conversations with Brad Hendricks from the teachers union. You know he's very supportive of stopping this dump, and so, and we were really pleased to see that come up, because it's just important that the school be represented at various levels, so that
And I think if you look back at our last public statement, which was reasonably timeless about that, it included all of our board members and our union representation, and I mean, all stakeholder groups across the school district were included, so.
thank you very much.
We are all of the same
With
mindset.
us, I mean, we didn't take too much time.
No, yeah, but listen, hopefully you've learned from things, whatever we've talked about tonight, there's a lot that goes on in the board meetings. Some longer than others, today seems to be pretty typical though. But thank you, we appreciate it. I'm glad Pace can also do that, that's great. So I just wanted to point out to the board that right before we came in, the red on the agenda is not additional, it was just changes in the times and dates that were on there, so they were already on there, they just changed. We wish Ashley best, her best going out, adding an addition to her family. We're glad that Brad could come back early to us, and that his surgeries went well. So if nobody has any questions for the remainder of the budget, for the remainder of the
I'm trying to.
agenda, I know you're getting me nervous.
Sorry.
I would like to motion to pass the remainder of the agenda, so we can get off to a game if we'd like. So I'd like to motion to move the agenda, please. Stacy and Peter, all in favor? Aye, thank you. Motion to end our meeting.
Also, aye.
Stacy, Peter, all right, we got Jim, all in favor? Aye, thank you, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
This is not gonna stop, I'm like, give me a minute, thank you.
I got a box upstairs.
I was gonna make one
thank
for
you,
everybody, but my extruder failed, so
I don't know what that is.
I'm sorry about your extruder. That's not
part of my 3D printer. Now you don't get one. See how you are, Mahar.
I'm used to extruding for you. The fastest level.
Huh?
Yeah.
Great to see you guys.
You too, buddy. Let's roll this.
Nice to accept the check.
Sorry. Speaking behind you.
Sorry about that.
Worried about like.
Good, buddy. I learned a lot. There you go.
Very sad.
I don't know the last time.
No, I might have to go to Joanne's bathroom.
Don't be bad.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
That's sometimes, I just had a kid hand me one from life. He said he's been having it since he was in second grade. He came in yesterday and gave it to me. Oh, what's this? He goes, I don't know, I've had it since second grade. I figured I'd return it. That's good.
Thank you.
Close enough, it's.
You can mispronounce
I miss Mr. Hicks. You would be the first one to say.
Definitely won't.
You go with shoulders and hairspray, and apparently she's got to kiss somebody. Huh? It's fake.
See how much help I have.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, see how much.